सेव किया था ना?
मैं सिर्फ इसलिए गया था क्योंकि उसने मुझे कॉल किया, that's it. But listen तो.
Save it for someone else.
जिंदगी में सेव करना जरूरी है, मगर जब बात पैसों की हो, सिर्फ सेविंग से काम नहीं चलेगा। इक्विटी म्यूचुअल फंड्स में इन्वेस्ट कीजिए और अपने सेविंग्स को आगे बढ़ने का मौका दीजिए।
Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme-related documents carefully.
Modi government slipped in a very, very major decision just as the Christmas weekend was beginning. And probably that's the reason it did not find so much discussion. We did not see anything on TV. In any case, TV is caught up with other things right now. Now, what did they do? They abolished a scheme. They withdrew a scheme that's been there in 7 different phases almost for 2 years now. That is the scheme for distribution of free food grain. 5 kilos to every member of a poor family, and this was going out to 81.5 crore Indians. 5 kilo per head per family for free. So if a family, for example, had say 5 members, a normal kind of family, right? 5 members, 35 kilos of grain free. Now these families are all also entitled to buying 5 kilos of grain per head each at 2 rupees a kilo for wheat and 3 rupees a kilo for rice and 1 rupee a kilo for coarse grains. So if in effect a poor family in India, if you qualified for this, that is 81.5 crore people could get 10 kilos of grain per head per month. That is again a family of 5 could get 50 kilos of food grain per month, even if some of the family members are children, at either free, half of it free and half of it at near free prices, very low prices. Now that has been changed radically, and you know what, it takes some doing to withdraw a big, huge welfare free distribution scheme just like that, so dramatically. And how big was it? This was the biggest welfare scheme, ongoing scheme in India. 5 kg of food grain free for every member of the family, named in the name of the Prime Minister, Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Yojana. So as of now, come 31st December or come 1st January 2023, Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Yojana will be gone, right? Big difference. Now the second biggest program like this, NFSA or National Food Security Act, that has also undergone a radical change. Now this is a change on the other side. The first has been withdrawn, so the government has taken away a freebie. On the other hand, on the second one, where some charges had to be paid by the beneficiaries, that has become a freebie now, or a completely free welfare program. That is National Food Security Act. When Sonia Gandhi's UPA passed this law, to great celebration by welfareists and also by those on the left, that this would make the poor entitled by law to 5 kilos of grain per month at either 2 rupees or 3 rupees a kilo. That was a fraction of the economic cost of the procurement price. And this, the price then was to be reviewed every 3 years or so. But that wasn't done. In fact, since then it hasn't been done. The price has remained the same. Now Modi government has made it completely free. So one scheme that was completely free is now gone, no longer exists. The other scheme for which a family had to pay 3 rupees or 2 rupees or 1 rupee a kilo, depending on whether it was rice, that is 3 rupees, wheat, 2 rupees, or coarse grains. Coarse grains are basically all the millets, bajra, jaw, makki, that is maize, etc. For that, 1 rupee a kilo. That scheme has been made free. One freebie gone, and one welfare scheme becomes a freebie. Now, in this complex headline lies a great deal of politics and a great deal of economics. It also gives you a sense of how Modi government's mind works on political economy. Now, if you've seen responses to it, there are several kinds of responses. I will highlight some. One is the response of the supporters of Modi government, including cabinet members in this government, BJP leaders. They've all said, fantastic, Modi ji, what a great thing you've done. Now you will give the poor this much grain free. So 81.5 crore people will get this food grain free. Earlier they were paying for it. Good point. Second, then you have critics on the other side, say on the Congress side, who then say, oh, you've taken half of this grain away, you were giving it for free, you've taken that away, what you've done is a sleight of hand. Third, people might say, look, what are you doing? for something that you were charging money, you've now made it free. Which means once you made it free, you will never be able to charge money for it. So you've actually done a lot of damage to the fisc and to your financial discipline or fiscal discipline. A fourth bunch of people would say, again, the more extreme critics of Modi government, they will say, see, if you have to give 81.5 crore Indians free food grain even now, that tells you how badly off India is. And here you are. You said that I will do this, and this for India. 8 years into power, nearly 9 years into power, 81.5 crore Indians still have to depend on your free food grain. Now, the truth is, all these statements are right. And yet, all these statements are wrong. All these statements are right on fact. Yes, Modi government has withdrawn a freebie scheme. Correct. Yes, Modi government is now giving 81.5 crore people food grain free for which they had to pay. That's also correct. It is true also that once you make something free, it becomes nearly impossible to start charging for it again. And the fourth is also true that if 81.5 crore Indians still depend on free food grain or greatly appreciate free food grain, that means Indian economy hasn't really grown as much as it should have done, or whatever wealth creation has taken place has not trickled down as well as it should have. That said, what is the reality behind all this? That's why we have cut the clutter. The reality behind this is that the Modi government has actually, first of all, saved itself nearly 1,70,000 crore rupees, right? How do we arrive at that number? Every time the Modi government extended the Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Yojana, they will take an allocation from parliament for an additional expenditure of 40 to 44,000 crores. Now multiply that by 4, right? 4 quarters in a year. So that's nearly 1,80,000 crores. That is now gone, right? Fully gone. So Modi government to that extent is richer, or the taxpayer or the exchequer is richer by 1.8 lakh crore. That means a free welfare scheme worth 1.8 trillion rupees has been withdrawn just like that without too many people noticing it. And why have they not noticed it? Because he's made the other scheme free. Now, the other scheme, if you want to understand the economics of this, how this works, read a story that we just published on the print by my colleague TCA Sharad Raghavan, who explains this very succinctly. In fact, I am also drawing a lot of my gyan from his story. That story tells you that central government, when they sold wheat for 2 rupees a kilo, rice for 3 rupees a kilo, and coarse grains for 1 rupee a kilo, they basically collected about 15,500 crore rupees, right? Not small change, about $2 billion. So 15,500 crore rupees has now been sacrificed. This food will now, under NFSA, to which a poor person is entitled by law, that will go free to them instead of them having to pay a total of 15,500 crore rupees, which means 81.5 crore Indians were paying Government of India, Bharat Sarkar, 15,500 crore rupees that they will not pay now. So that 15,500 crore Modi government will sacrifice. At the same time, they will save 1.8 lakh crore. So the net saving is upwards of 1.5 trillion rupees, roughly about 1.65 lakh crore rupees. Now, how exactly did these schemes work? So there were two kinds of schemes, as I told you. First of all, poor families. Poor families could be classified by the state. So states had a lot of leeway under National Food Security Act. So once the state government classified a family under a category called PHH, or priority households, they were entitled to 5 kg of food grain per person at NFSA prices, which is 3 rupees a kilo wheat, 2 rupees a kilo rice, 1 rupee a kilo coarse grains, right? State governments could determine this. Then there were Antyodaya families. Now, Antyodaya families are the extremely poor families. They are the poorest of the poor. So for them, there was Antyodaya Ann Yojana. Under that, a family, irrespective of its size, got 35 kilos of grain at the same price, is 3-2-1. The 3-2-1 price rate, let's use that 3-2-1 formula instead of repeating every time. So these families, they will now get this grain for free. What the Modi government did in the wake of the pandemic, on the other hand, was that all those registered under NFSA, that is National Food Security Act, whether from among priority households or from among Antyodaya category, the poorest of the poor, they will all get 5 kg per person in the family, absolutely free. Now what the government is trying to do is, one, they've saved money. They've saved about 1,65,000 crores. And there's some other nuances to this which I will come to, because India right now, India still has food grains above the buffer stock level. India is quite safe, but India does not have overflowing granaries and food grain being rotten away, food grain lying in the open because we did not have the place to store it, because government was procuring too much food grain. Most of that has been consumed in last 2 years, free distribution. Now Government of India just has a little above the buffer stocks. That has also not been helped by the fact that last year, because of extreme weather events, wheat harvest was lower, at least wheat procurement was lower, because one, summer came in too early, temperatures went up in February and May, and that reduced wheat yields in many areas, those stories we've done. Second, many parts of eastern UP, Bihar, Jharkhand, West Bengal, first they got very poor monsoons and then they got heavy monsoons, flood-like monsoons, torrential monsoons much later in the paddy growing cycle. So both ways the crop suffered. So India's wheat and paddy procurement has not been as good as normally. So India's stocks are dwindling, not at dangerous levels, they're still above buffer stock levels, but there isn't that stock available right now to distribute for free, because rather than this rotting and economic cost being locked up there, might as well distribute it to the poor. So that is not available. So that's a benefit as well. The third thing that the government is trying to do, and they will never say it on the record, but they are saying to us off the record. In fact, you can read this in Sharad's story also. They are saying that we want to now encourage, incentivize the poor to go to work, because the economy has started to function fully. When a family gets 10 kgs of food grain per head, very few families can consume 10 kgs of food grain per head in a month. So what they do is they might consume maybe 5 kilos, 4 kilos per head and sell the rest in open market. So a lot of this free grain is now going into open market. That's causing its own distortions, and this money that the families are earning is not necessarily being spent on protein foods, vegetables, milk, eggs, meat, etc., etc. It has become like easy money. And that's why a lot of the families at the lower income levels haven't come back to work. So government wants them to come to work. Obviously, this is not something any government would ever say on record anywhere. Third thing is political, and that political thing is center versus the state. So what's been happening is as follows. You found over the years, over the last 3 years, state government after state government, particularly non-BJP state governments, they've been coming up with an announcement saying, I am now making all food grain distribution free. So Prime Minister is giving you 5 kilos anyway under PM Gram Kalyan Yojana, but for what the central government gives you at 3, 2, 1, state government makes it free. How much money does it cost the state government? It costs them a little, but not that much, because the total amount the center collects, and I will give you a calculation on how that amount is arrived at. The total amount the center collects is only 15,500 crores. So by paying that part of that 15,500 crores, say a state like Chhattisgarh, state like maybe Uttar Pradesh, that's a BJP state that has done quite a bit of this. See Rajasthan, they can say, I'm giving it free, right? TRS can say, or BRS now, they can say, I'm giving it free, which means by spending another 1,500 crores, state governments can get the credit for free distribution of grain, which the center is selling at a small price. What the center has done in this case is, by beginning to distribute that NFSA grain also free, they've taken away that one claim from the state governments. The state governments can't say, I'm giving it for free, because it's coming for free from the center. So you just can't pay a little bit of money. 98% of the cost of this food grain under NFSA is being borne by the center anyway, right? State governments, by paying just 2%, 3%, were claiming the credit. That is mostly non-BJP governments, some BJP governments also, but Modi government doesn't care about BJP governments in the states not being able to take that credit, because after all, they believe in the two-engine theory, two-engine ki sarkar theory. So Madhya Pradesh can say, all right, you're getting free food grain, it's coming from my party. It doesn't matter to them whether it's coming from their party's government in the state or in the center. That affects the non-BJP states. So there is also profound politics to this move. Now there are 3 readings I'd recommend to you, and I'm sharing links with you of all 3. You can see those. One, of course, is the story by Sharad Raghavan, which I just mentioned. Second is an article by Professor Siraj Hussain that we published today on The Print. Professor Siraj Hussain used to be Agriculture Secretary, Government of India, Central Government. Also, he was CMD of Food Corporation of India. So he knows his stuff and he gives us some data and facts. And third is the lead editorial in the Indian Express today, which welcomes this change and also puts it in perspective. So read all three and you will understand the figures also much better. Now, for example, at 10 kg per head per month, a family of 4, right? Family of 4 gets 40 kg in a month. So suppose NFSA and PMGKY were running together. So every individual out of this 81.5 crore people would be getting 10 kg per month of food grain. That means 120 kg per year, right? Now you multiply 81.5 crores by 120 kg. You come to a figure of nearly 10 crore tons. That means 10 crore tons of food grain was being distributed free or almost free by Government of India. That is about 1/3 of all of the central government's procurement of wheat, rice and whatever coarse grains are subject to MSP. That was a lot of the government's procurement given away. So that is what I had meant when I said I will show you how this calculation of these costs are done. So you see these costs and you also see how much more grain has government been procuring than normally it would. Now the chances are that now that PMGKY is gone, government will not need that much more grain to procure and it will be able to utilize more money incentivizing the farmer, etc., etc. Once again, that's a tricky thing because minimum support price right now has become a very touchy thing. And you see once again protests breaking out here and there for demanding that MSP should be made into a law. But government has now gone in exactly the opposite direction, which is, to my view, in my humble opinion, a reformist direction. At the same time, even with all these distribution and 1 year of bad crops, bad wheat, bad rice, we are still way above what is needed for our buffer stock. So January 1 this year, Professor Siraj Hussain estimates in his article for The Print, India's wheat stocks will be 15.9 million tons for the central government. That is still about 2 million tons more than the buffer requirement of 13.9 million tons. Similarly, for rice also, it will be quite comfortable, but again, comfortable in terms of buffer stocks, not comfortable in terms of what India had got used to in the past or in terms of what China is stocking up now. Because China is stocking up food grain right now as if at some point growing food grains will go out of fashion. Why are the Chinese doing this? I don't know. Who knows why the Chinese are doing what they are doing? You ask Xi Jinping. Right now, he has to answer some more immediate questions about what exactly he's done and what he's doing with this COVID management. From zero COVID to now, couldn't care less, right? But at the same time, his government has been picking up vacuum cleaning food grain from all over the world. India doesn't have to do that, nor does India have the resources to do that. Which finally brings us to what the most strident critics of Modi government are saying, which is that, look, your ninth year in government, 81.5 crore Indians still depend on your free food grain. So the question arises, do 81.5 crore people still need or require free food grain? And on that, much debate is called for. So there was a committee on food grains under Shanta Kumar, who was a senior BJP leader, a very well-respected BJP leader from Vajpayee era. So Shanta Kumar committee estimated this was too high. At that point, about 67% of India's population was getting subsidized food grain. So in 2015, a committee under Shanta Kumar estimated that 67% of the population being covered under National Food Security Act or subsidized grain was too much. It was going to too many undeserving people. Coverage at just about 40%, that is 40% of India's population, would have been fine. That too much of it was going to people who were not deserving of free grain or who did not need free grain. And again, Siraj Hussain Saab also raises a question and he says, look, between World Bank and IMF, given their latest data, they do not estimate your extreme poverty at more than 10.2%. So why are you giving food grain to so many people? Must you keep giving food grain to so many people? But you know what? Half of that has now been taken away. That is the one headline you haven't seen. Half of that free grain is taken away. The other half has been made free, but from a nearly free price to free. Number 3, state governments' shouting rights have been taken away. And number 4, it is now creating impetus for more people to go out to work. And fifth, the central government has saved a neat 1.65 lakh crores per year.